like someone he had not seen before. And he knew most of the people in his neighborhood. So he had observed someone walking through the neighborhood with a hoodie on, looking either into windows or looking into around residences and such.
All right, let me interrupt you if I could. Did he describe the individual, he said?
He did.
How did he describe him?
Tall, about 6 foot, and about slender, slender build.
And he stated the person was doing something, you said?
He said walking through between two sets of townhomes. When you look to your left and right, you would look into windows. You wouldn't be in a position really to look into either the front door or such, but it was side windows.
Yes, sir. Did he further describe the individual by race or ethnicity?
Well, at that time, he knew that he was a black male.
Okay. I apologize. I interrupted you. You said, what else did the defendant tell you regarding what happened?
He said then when he realized that the person that was walking through the neighborhood was someone he didn't know, he didn't recognize, and someone who usually looks through a neighborhood while it's raining, it's suspicious, because a lot of times juveniles will walk through neighborhoods or people who are suspicious will walk through neighborhoods while it's raining because you get less people walking around, walking their dogs, or just taking an evening walk. So someone who might want to be a little more suspicious, if they're acting suspicious, they'll do it when it's dark and when it's raining. And that might have been a trigger, he had said to me.
All right, okay. What I want to do is focus as best you can in terms of what you recall him saying as opposed to...
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, he said he observed what is now, we realize is Trayvon, walking between the two buildings, and then he came down and he observed him, thought it was suspicious, and then he was going to call the non-emergency number for the Sanford Police Department.
Did he state that the individual that we're referring now as Trayvon Martin starts toward him and came under the light, and so he was using his phone?
Correct. George was using his... I'm sorry, did you mention George was using his phone or Trayvon?
What did he say?
I was never told by George that Trayvon was using his phone.
I'm sorry, that
George was.
George, I apologize.
Correct.
George Zimmerman was using his phone.
Correct. He dialed the non-emergency number, and he wanted to make sure that he called that line instead of the 911 line.
Did he say the person you know now is the victim, Trayvon Martin, approached this car?
Walked close at this point.
Okay, what does he say about that, if you could?
Walked down to the street, about where, because George had remained in his vehicle, and Trayvon had walked down, I guess down to the sidewalk area, walked a little further away, walked back a bit, and then George had, I believe, pulled into the front of their clubhouse and parked his vehicle there and waited for Sanford Police to arrive and...
Okay. Does he say... I apologize, I interrupted you, sir.
No, I'm sorry, just...
Okay. Did he say that the person you now know is Trayvon Martin? When I say he, I'm talking about the defendant, George Zimmerman.
Right.
That he walked up to the passenger side window and stood there for a moment, then goes to the front of the car, comes around to my window, my driver's side, then towards the rear of my car, then walks away?
Yeah, it was walked around the vehicle, very in a close proximity, and I think they looked at each other, George had said.
Okay. Did he, the defendant, then say that at some point then he lost sight of the person you now know as Trayvon Martin?
Yes, briefly.
And do you recall then in terms of Mr. Zimmerman, the defendant, saying that he was talking to the dispatch or to the non-emergency person, correct?
Yes.
And did he tell you that in terms of whether he was asked, are you following him, and he answered, yes, I'm following him, but he didn't see Trayvon Martin at that time, was looking for him?
Well, there's kind of two, as George described it to me, there were kind of two phases of the contact. The first one was when he first saw him, and then he pulled into the clubhouse parking lot, and then the second one was when he reestablished contact with Trayvon, who walked down another side street that wasn't the main street around the circle, and then he backed his car up, and then he tried to keep a visual contact with him, so he followed him with his car, and he didn't get out of his vehicle until he lost visual sight of him.
And then do you recall the defendant telling you that the officer or the dispatcher, I use officer just because they're with the police department saying to the defendant that we don't need you to follow him, and he said, okay.
Correct. That was at the point where he had already gotten out of his car first. And as he described to me, there were two reasons for getting out of the car. First, he didn't know the street. I guess he was on that center street. It's a smaller street. He didn't know the actual name of it, so he got out of his car to try to establish a visual contact to try to direct the police officer in to meet with Trayvon and dispel his suspicions and to find the exact address. Because as a police officer, you always want to know the exact address of where you're going.
All right, and then he told you, I'm sorry, the defendant, I apologize for using pronoun, that he started walking and then he put his phone somewhere.
He put his phone in his pocket after the dispatcher told him they didn't need him to follow him, so he was going to walk back to his vehicle.
Okay, and then he said something happened at that point?
He told me that as he was walking back to his car down the dog path, that Trayvon had confronted him, had walked towards him and confronted him, and they had a verbal.
Okay, and what do you recall a defendant telling you that Trayvon Martin told him, and what did he say in response?
He cursed. I'm not going to curse here today. He said, do you have a problem? And then he used a curse word.
All right, now, you wrote a book about this, right?
I did.
And you wrote a book and where you quoted what the defendant, George Zimmerman, told you, correct?
Correct.
And do you recall in that book writing, do you have a problem that that's what he said Trayvon Martin said?
Right. Correct.
Okay. And you didn't put in that book anything about a curse word at all?
I believe I did.
You did? Okay.
I believe I did. Do you have a problem? And then he used the initials MF.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'm going to show you your own.
The book because it was pretty graphic. And I didn't
Oh,
wanna-
okay, so you on purpose you took it out?
I think the publisher had
Okay.
asked that not be put in.
Because you put on there, do you have a problem? And then Mr. Zimmerman, that you said, replied, no, I don't have a problem.
Correct. And it was
But you believe the words were actually what now, the defendant said?
MF.
Okay, so these juries have heard, so just for the record to be
Okay,
clear.
I just...
And then Mr. Trayvon Martin replied?
You do now.
Okay. And the defendant claimed that Trayvon Martin, was coming at him at that time?
He was very close, probably within an arm's or two. Him in the nose.
Okay. So the defendant claims he looked down, and that's when Trayvon Martin hit him.
Well, he looked down, got his phone, and he said as he looked back up, he lost visual contact for maybe a second to get his phone out of his pocket. He went like this, and as he looked up, the punch came squarely in his face.
So did the defendant say he took the phone out or left it in his pocket?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't remember.
And then what did the defendant claim after he claims the victim hit him in the nose?
He stumbled backwards and found himself on his back,
Okay.
partially on the grass, partially on the sidewalk.
Did he say what the victim, Trayvon Martin, was doing at that point?
He moved forward and got on top of him.
Did he describe to you how he got on top of him?
His knees were up somewhere near his chest or up near his armpits,
Okay.
and he was beginning to punch him.
Okay, so the defendant is claiming that the victim straddled him, I guess?
Correct?
And his knees were up in his ribs and near his armpits, correct?
Correct.
And he began punching him.
That's what George said.
And I apologize, he began punching Trayvon Martin. Okay.
Trayvon began punching George Zimmer.
I'm sorry, I got it backwards, sorry. The defendant's claiming he's on the ground,
And
Trayvon Martin is straddling
was
him.
punching him, George. I'm sorry.
I apologize, Mr. Officer.
I'm sorry. He said that he was on his back, and Trayvon Martin straddled him and began punching him in the face.
But the way he described Trayvon Martin straddling the defendant, he claims that you said his knees were up to his rib cage or armpits, is that correct?
Somewhere around there, correct.
Then he said, what?
Well, George began screaming for help at that point.
Did he say anything about the defendant grabbing his head and doing something with his head?
Absolutely. Once he started screaming, George said Trayvon grabbed his head and started bashing his head on the concrete, which his upper half of his body was on the dog path.
Right. In fact, I think you quoted Mr. Zimmerman, the defendant, saying that he was 8 inches from the grass, correct?
About, as George was explaining it,
Was still on top of him and took his hands and put it over his nose, correct?
one hand was trying to cover his nose, and one hand was trying to cover his mouth to keep him from screaming.
Right. And I think you quoted Mr. Zimmerman as saying that Trayvon Martin put his hand, takes one of his hands and puts it over my nose and pinches it closed while his other hand goes over my mouth.
It was described to me something like this, maybe a pinch, maybe not like that, but a pinch like that and a cover.
So, in other words, Trayvon Martin is using one hand over his nose and then one hand over his mouth, correct?
It's something to that effect.
And then, what does Mr. Zimmerman, the defendant, say happened then?
He said that because his jacket rode up a bit, that perhaps with the inside of his leg, he felt or looked down and saw that he had a holster and a firearm.
Okay. Before the defendant said that, did he say that he desperately got both of my hands around the guy's one wrist and took his hand off my mouth long enough for me to shout again for help?
Right. That was the main thing he did with his hands, was to try to clear his mouth. Because with his mouth free, he could scream and he could breathe.
Okay. So the defendant is describing to you that Trayvon Martin's got one hand pinching or with his nose, and then he's got the other hand over his mouth, right?
Trying to.
He can't breathe or
Correct.
Have I got that right?
Correct.
And then the defendant is claiming that he took his hands and removed at least one hand off of Trayvon Martin.
Off of his own mouth.
Okay.